Luminosity, Noble Esports, game number 1. LG took it in sweeping fashion, nice and easy. Not nice and easy. The early game kind of had Noble's name on it.
I wouldn't say that the early game was entirely Noble's, though. To be completely fair to Luminosity, it was really just Scary D who seemed like he was getting the worst end of things at the start of that matchup. But it worked out really well for Luminosity in the long run. Scary did what he needed to do. He built tanky and frontlined.
Well, they're going to ban up the Susano. We mentioned earlier, or rather the desk mentioned earlier, that Noble's Skeleton was a very strong Susano. Mask has his own really strong Susano, so ban that one out. We brought it up before. We're going to see it again. The first pick, Khepri. After seeing what happened in game number 1, have you revised your thoughts on this character?
A lot of prioritization onto the Khepri, and I think that it's still a strong pickup for Luminosity because of the compositions that they tend to be running alongside of it. The Nemesis yet again for Lumi, so that's going to be Mask all over 100%, and then Scary most likely on the Amaterasu. I can't imagine that going anywhere else. So that's a pretty strong combination. Tons of mobility already because of the Amma passive and her aura herself. She's really mobile, and combining that into what Noble have opted for, Wowie and Wubbin, I think that they're running a much stronger dual lane this time around. It's certainly one that can punish the Khepri pick a little bit harder.
For sure.
But whether or not they're going to be able to find that early game aggression is going to be the real question.
Well, you and I didn't really see any issue with the Soul. We didn't really see MLC Stealth do much. But Luminosity did. They go ahead and they ban out the Soul in their second round of bans. That Circuit is obviously something different, unfortunately. We'll give you the real ban in just a moment. But Hades Poseidon banned out on the other side by Noble Esports. The other side, excuse me, by Noble Esports. They're going to go with a Chiron. Likely to see this character in the middle lane for MLC. He's a guy that has played mages. And when he brings up the hunters, not always his cup of tea. Something changed?
I don't think that anything's changed. I think that MLC has always had that god pool he can pocket pick into if need be. He just hasn't really felt a need for it. But I think that Luminosity made the right decision in banning away that Soul, even though they didn't have a whole lot popping off for Noble beforehand. I mean, it still could have been a very dangerous pick, and I know you're so happy seeing that jungle Habwa.
I haven't heard anything you've said since they locked it up. I was like, all right, I'm listening. Habwa, sweet. Habwa, yeah. Stop talking. Habwa. Let's get in the game. Habwa. Jungle Habwa is what I'm thinking. Maybe we'll see a, Ho Yi jungle. People talk about that, but I'm not about that life. Skeleton will play the Jungle Habwa, and it's interesting. This character is a pain to deal with if he gets off the ground.
What I really like about the Jungle Habwa is that it's against a Nemesis. He's going to have that Elo carpet. Excuse me. It's not really called the Elo carpet. It's just referenced as that.
The wet paper.
He has the escape option and the mobility speed. He can be in a little bit of danger here, though. If Skeely isn't careful, already having to expend the Aegis. Nothing Aquarius can do.
He didn't even have an ability.
Oh, but Scary D.
Okay, listen. So let's set the table here. So First Blood goes the way of Luminosity, 500 gold, dead Habwa, hooray, good for you. Habwa's very susceptible to things like this. Rotation from Noble, Wubbin all the way from left lane. Scary D might be in trouble here. 3 players in Noble jerseys gonna be hunted down by Aquarius. Just a matter of time for Scary D to fall down here. Unless,
creeps.
Oh, they missed. Noble drop a big opportunity. They finally grab it. They finally grab it. Noble pick clean up and get the kill. Of course, they're still down that even 500 from the First Blood. So let's set this table here real quick. Skeleton on the Habwa, listen, he's gonna die, right? He's supposed to die to a certain extent. But not, oh man, not like that. So if he picks up Water Spout level 1, it's not as much damage as Water Cannon, but he lives. When we saw him die, we watched him select an ability. He had no spells when he died. That's an issue.
It's just a little unfortunate. Sometimes it can kind of just slip your mind that you want to try
level something up.
I've done it a couple of times, believe it or not. Like I've actually gone into the lane trying to use an ability and just couldn't. So it does happen. It's much like forgetting to buy a certain relic.
Well, chalk it up to the yips, just an oops. But my question is, now I said this character is really tough to deal with if it gets off the ground, and Luminosity are going to try really hard to prevent Skildon from getting off the ground. Does that first blood stop Skilly in his tracks right now?
I don't think it stopped Skilly in his tracks too hard, just because of the way that the rest of Noble rotated over. They kept Luminosity in that lane for so long with that little bit of a fiesta going. They were just trying to secure a kill, and it was thankfully Wubbin landing it. And now Mask, he could be a little bit of danger from Aquarius, but he had a shield just in case. Aquarius wasn't looking for it. He was more than aware that Mask was trying to pop that off cooldown. Yeah,
when it comes down to it, you can see the junglers separated by 50 gold, give or take, maybe 100. So it's not too much. I don't think it's terrible for our Hebo player here. Skildon. Really, what I'm looking for is Skildon has to find the right ganks. Now, Habo is a character that deletes people. We know that, and I like him more in the jungle. I say that because he's safer. He's just less likely to get blown up as if he's standing in mid.
100%. Yeah, I mean, he's got the freedom to rotate as well, and even with the first death having already happened for Skildon, it's still a Hwa. He'll still deal a ton of damage coming into level 6, 7 just because of his 1, and it's just so much raw power, and it's devastating if you're caught out by it. But probably the real victor in that early game matchup was Baskin, because he was just chilling. He was AFK in that mid lane, farming away. And
that's a Vulcan. That's what he wants to do. Vulcan and Hebo are like cousins. Hebo brings big damage, but he's got to be up close and personal. Baskin can do that from long range with the ultimate, right? And then the backfire and water cannon, kind of reminiscent of each other. I always like to compare these two characters, even if it's a rough one.
And this is the second game in a row, though, that I've noticed that Skilly tends to be hanging around the solo lane side a little bit more. It seems as though Noble are really trying to prioritize. Wow.
Baskin's like, I want some of that farm.
Okay, then. Sometimes you just gotta secure it.
Listen, man, that's a team that's still having fun. You know what I mean? I like to see those interactions. And at the end of the day, listen, Baskin doesn't need that ult in the next minute or so. It's a lot less when you see a Kraken go off, right? You're like, okay, we're gonna kill the Poseidon. He can't Kraken us on his feet, right? When a Vulcan ults his feet with 1 point in that ultimate, you're not really gonna die. You know what I mean? So you have a different face. You think that was an egregious mistake.
I don't think it was a mistake. I'm just like, I can't believe he actually ulted for it. I get that he wanted the farm, and it makes sense, but it's just like such a Baskin thing to do.
Okay, there it is.
That's mostly what I'm laughing about.
There it is, because I was gonna say, you can't believe, if it was a different mid laner, I'd say I can't believe it, but it's Baskin, and that's what he does. Baskin has fun playing the game, and honestly, I like that. I like to watch somebody, you know, that really enjoys it, really go to town, which is why I like watching this Luminosity squad. I think that Jeff Hindla and Barracuda have been around the block and still find, not every game, but still find themselves at a spot where they legitimately enjoy SMITE, and I think you can tell that in the way that they play the game.
Yeah, plus it's also just the easier, I suppose. They were kind of probably concerned about somebody coming in to steal away and for Noble to secure their own red buff. But now the engagement's happening onto Aquarius, but it looks like Jeff Hindla is the one getting the first hit.
Missed the ultimate. Luckily, Jeff Hindla's still going to be toasted. Skilly can't miss too many of those, otherwise he's just not going to be useful. Basket puts him down, and hey, the ult's up just in time. Doesn't find the target. That was MLC Stealth, but Baskin gets away from Wubbin after the stun.
And now Baskin just going to get... I was waiting to see if MLC would try to launch another ultimate era to possibly secure those elementals away from Mask, but didn't even want to bother, didn't even want to risk them trying to re-engage onto him and Wubbin, knowing that the Fafnir ultimate was going to be falling down soon. So I think smart disengage by Luminosity.
Another death by Skildon, but again, looking at the numbers, it's not costly yet. Now, the Hebo, he's going to die a lot. We mentioned that. But until you start seeing a bigger separation between the junglers by way of both money and experience, it's not something to be worried about. Junglers are separated by about 200 gold now. So you're sitting there and you're saying, almost. right? Once you see that 400 or 500 gold differential, that's when you say Mask is in the lead. Skilldon's gonna have trouble really fighting into any scenario that he puts himself in. So as long as Skilldon can continue up this this farm and doesn't let this 200 gold differential really hurt him too hard, he should be able to stay relevant.
You can tell that
jungle Hebo.
Luminosity really want to invade this buff. Scary even expending his teleport to go in, and now he's popping off the ultimate. He's trying to find Skeely yet again, and having to use that ult defensively, that is so troublesome for Noble.
Yeah, in that scenario, it's not so bad because they were disengaging anyway. Skilldon's just not going to be able to go ahead and find a gank, but you're 100% right. Just like I mentioned, the missed ult on the right side, that ultimate is why you're, I mean, not why you're picking Skilldon, but one of the bigger impacts that the Hotbot could actually have in the game. You need to be able to just delete somebody with the ultimate, and if it's not doing enough damage because you're behind, or if you're just missing it, or it's down because you got forced out, then, well, why is there Hebo here?
Oh, wow. MLC, why were you there? I mean, it's his jungle, but Barra was not looking to slow down at any point.
No.
He wanted to go in 100%. I think that MLC thought that he could find the better trade of that, and now Wubbin looks like he might get caught out. It's just going to be fine. It's a Fafnir. He's still tanky enough to get away.
MLC on the Hunter. Still not looking comfortable. I would rather, personally, I'd rather see MLC on, I don't know, what's the most oddball mage you can think of? I'd rather watch MLC play an Opwash than a Hunter these days. And that's not a knock at MLC. Well, you know, I guess it kind of is. I just don't, the Hunter, my point is, I don't think playing a Hunter mid is necessary. He can play the other mages. Why do we see his team and himself force out these Hunters that aren't necessarily in his god pool?
I disagree. I think that he's doing an excellent job flexing out his god pool because they obviously wanted the Habwa for Skeleton. They wanted that burst god mage, and they knew that if Skeely's going to be playing Habwa, we can afford to put another ADC into the mid lane or anywhere really. And it's just safer for MLC to pick a god such as Chiron because he does have a lot of team setup capabilities. He's got his ultimate to use that can apply the mark for him to get that slow from everybody with his 2, and plus he's got a cleanse with his 1. It cleanses out of CC, and that's a really strong option. There isn't too much CC on the side of Luminosity other than the slows coming out from Mask, and that's a primary concern because you never really want to get caught out by that. But if he can cleanse away those Nemesis ultimates for his team, then they can get away to safety, and plus Hunters will eventually deal damage. He just needs to get his Transcendence online.
I mean, no, I understand. I definitely understand why, or the strategy behind the choice. I just
prefer to see him on a mage.
Yeah, I've seen MLC on these Hunters before, and it's always, I get it, but it's not doing it.
It was the Neath. It was the Neath before, and I think that it was just, it can leave a little bit more to be
desired.
Yes, and MLC is a very talented player, so I can definitely understand where you're coming from. But I think that he has a little bit more to show when it comes to Hunters in the mid lane.
All right, I'm down to keep an open mind, but I want to keep an open mind. I would, oh man. If Aquarius teleports there maybe 1 or 2 seconds earlier, Noble takes that team fight and wins it if Skeleton hits his ult.
Noble still wants this team fight. They're still...
And I don't know if they should still want the team fight. One of the nice things, actually, since we've been sort of pointing out the negative sides of the Habwa, one of the nice things that I really did notice on that right side team fight many minutes ago was Jeff was looking for the abduct and he got knocked up by a water spout. That water spout is going to be a very big deal. Even if Habwa does find himself behind and unable to deal the damage that he wants to do, that knock-up is going to be really important.
And it's just Aquarius by himself. Luminosity are committing to this Portal Demon. They've got the Vulcan ultimate. It's all theirs.
Yep. And I mean, that's why nobody helped out Aquarius, and hopefully they're doing the Gold Fury, and they are. Too late. Not a lot of damage. Habwa's got to confirm this. 25% HP on the Gold Fury, and it's leashed out by Noble.
Skeely's too low already, and Barracuda, he finds him in the back line. There goes Mass ultimate. Scary D's putting the chase in. MLC unable to survive.
Great ultimate by Scary D, setting up the rest of the team. Baskin cleans up as well. 3 players down. Wubbin is being Wubbin, just standing there under the tower. Unfortunately, his team can't help him out. Noble gets smoked out. The decision was there, but it came too late. As soon as Aquarius looks at the team dealing damage to the Portal Demon, he's got to say, all right, man, they have a Vulcan. They clearly get this one. Go do Gold Fury. And Noble just took too long to say yes.
I can't believe that Mash just got out there with what must have been 5 or 7 HP.
I mean, double dash in his shield.
It's just, it's so brutal for Noble to get chased into the T2, lose the Gold Fury because of how that team fight went down, and know that the Portal Demon already fell way to Luminosity. That's a pretty rough loss early on.
Yeah, Noble had, I mean, you mentioned, I might have overplayed how much Noble had done in the early game in game number 1, but it was more than this. Unfortunately for Noble, this game, Luminosity warmed up in game number 1, and they're still hot in game number 2. They're just crushing it. Missed ultimate. Skeely still finds it with the water hands. Gotta keep an eye on that one.
No, the ultimate actually clipped him.
Oh, did it? Okay,
the ult clipped him against the wall.
Okay, good.
So.
I'm very happy then, because I mean, listen, you miss your 1 or 2 in the beginning of the game. All right, nobody hits 100%. But if that becomes a trend, then you know what are you doing? But I'm very glad that Skeely hit that. I thought he missed that one.
You've got to be careful though. Mass looking to defend this T1 tower.
Knock up.
He's got his team coming in though.
Yeah, still. That, and one of the nice things about that knock-up from the water spout, one, you can't aegis in the air, right? And it's going to lead you into subsequent damage from the water cannon. Hopball brings a lot out of the jungle. Likely to pick up Blink, unless he needs a defensive. You think he goes to Blink?
He needs to go to Blink because that's basically jungle Hopball.
Yeah.
You go Bees, you don't have the engage that you need.
But at the same time, he's got to stay alive, so.
Barracuda, though, with the level 15, out-farming even his solo laner, and poor Wowie, man. He's kind of just on the short end of the stick here. Yeah,
Wowie's been a guy that we've spoken a lot about. You specifically, and for good reason. He's a fantastic hunter player, but the team just isn't able to help him. Look at him taking the Transonics approach, trying to find the flank. Shouts to the console hunter who popularized the hunter as assassin pathing, right? But we'll see if Wowie actually commits to that one. The Kernanos is a character that I really want to talk about here. At lower levels, he's looked at as one of the can't beat characters. At top level, he was there for a moment, but now we see teams willing to fight into him. How do you fight around the Kernanos? Why are the pros comfortable fighting into this character?
He's punishable early, especially by gods such as Hu Yi and Ram. Also Medusa, just anybody that can clear the wave pretty well as a hunter can usually box with him, because Kern, he can clear early on, but he doesn't have the greatest clear in the game until right around level 6. That's when he's just one-shotting the wave, but so is every hunter in the game. So as long as you play it appropriately at the start, which somebody like Wowie can do, because Wowie is a very skilled hunter. We didn't get to see it in game number 1 just because Noble, the entirety of Noble was just too far behind to really do anything about Luminosity Snowball. So that was just unfortunate circumstances. And again, that's kind of a concern that I'm running here already, considering Barracuda, he's got the Executioner online. I'm sure that he'll be building into a Rage Deathbringer here pretty soon. That's a very favorable build right now for hunters. And the crit damage on a Kern, that's going to hurt.
You got the amplified damage from his first ability, and yeah, you know, right now the theory didn't come into practice in that long lane. 3-level lead for Kernanos. Unfortunately, the Hou Yi just couldn't keep up, and that has to do with the team. I mean, if you put Wowie and Barracuda on Hou Yi and Kernanos in a vacuum lane by themselves, things come out, I think, much more even. I don't think Wowie beats him, but I think we wind up with a much more even game. But there's Pro SMITE. Ain't no such thing as a 1v1. And there is no honor in observing the 1v1. Barracuda fights people in the jungle, takes it 2-0-2 so far. And you're right, he's just about to build into the crit, most likely, if we take a look at what he built in game number 1. Immediately after these attack speeds, he goes the Rage into the DB. One of the more classic Smite builds, going all the way back to Season 1.
And Luminosity, they want this Portal Demon yet again. This time, though, Noble's actually here to try and defend it. Yeah, before it was just an Osiris, which, I don't know, not exactly 0 on the steel scale, but not on 100 either. Hebo,
He can certainly do it. Just through the objective. That's the sound he makes when he ults, by the way. Wubbin gonna engage and looking for Jeff Handler, who dashes away with the abduct on cooldown. Noble does have an extra option. Mask ult, skill it on. Baskin from a distance, can't find it, but forces the ult out of the water mage. Scary D makes his way all the way to the back line, taking out skill it on. Scary D makes his way all the way to the back line, taking out Wowie, but Wowie takes out Mask in turn. Aquarius fighting one versus the world. He goes down as well. Mask trades himself out for 3 separate players. Luminosity are happy with that. Portal Demon is going to go their direction. Scary D will zone while they pick it up. Barracuda alive with a sliver of HP. And once again, finds himself relatively high on the player damage chart. Number 2 under Aquarius.
I'd say it's lucky even that Wowie was able to find the kill that he did, and now already Luminosity trying to force down this Fire Giant. Barra's got the crit in hands, and the damage. It's Kern plus Vulcan. That FG stood no chance. As early as it is in the game, it stood no chance.
Luminosity are doing a fantastic job of target selecting skill out every single fight. Watching this game is not proof that Jungle Hebo doesn't work. It might be proof that Jungle Hebo does work. Look how much attention that Luminosity has to pay to the Habwa in every team fight. Otherwise, it could just go the other way in a moment.
And speaking of attention, Skeely's getting much unwanted attention by Scary D, and it's already over.
He just melts. And the Habwa will always just melt. There's not a situation where you can build him tanky and be okay with it. But and at the same time, I mean, Luminosity are going to target him every single time. Because, listen, Habwa can be 0 and 9 and ult 2 people in the team fight and win the team fight. So Luminosity has to do what they're doing here, and you got to tip their hat to them. They're doing a fantastic job of keeping the #1 threat down and out.
Just look at the aggression, though, from Luminosity. That entire mid lane engagement and then the taking of the T1 tower. They were pushing into that T2 before the T1 was even fully secured. They wanted to keep going. They are no intentions of slowing down.
Nah, this Luminosity team is a force to be reckoned with. We saw them last year, and Scary D, it was interesting. Baskin, or excuse me, Barra, Jeff, and their mid lane were pretty damn good. Barra and Jeff are always pretty good, right? And then you watch Scary D and Mask sort of, in the beginning of last year, Spring Split last year, sort of work their way up and ramp up, and Mask now is one of the more celebrated junglers. It took Scary D a LAN performance to really have that same mentality. And we saw kind of a stutter step in the Spring Split, but I think Luminosity has just enough faith in the squad to be successful, and watching them come together as a unit, and here in the Summer Split, they want to, and I think they will go to Spain. I don't think there's a way that this team slows down.
I would be very surprised to not see them in Valencia, but more importantly, I'm really just been looking at this map for the past few minutes, and the #1 thing that I'm noticing is it's completely stripped of farm for Noble. So this lead that they were already victim to for Luminosity is just expending even more because there's just nothing they can do about it. They're trying to siege a T1 tower, and they're losing everything else for it.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a situation where you have to just give it up. A Fire Giant team that's up over 10,000 gold, you're not defending a tier 1, so do something else at the very least. The Phoenix is where Noble wants to respond. Mask takes a lot of damage from the Phoenix, down to 40%. Jeff Hindler down to about half as well. Baskin tosses the close range shot, and it's good enough. He just deletes Skill It on the backside. Barrett takes care of Aquarius, who dives very deep, and all of a sudden, it's a 5-on-3. I guess more realistically, a 4-on-3 Mask has to go to base, but wow. Baskin, that ultimate very rarely does a lot of damage close up.
Skeely couldn't even use his blink to try and get any sort of Habwa ultimate engagement going for Noble. It's just so unfortunate because, in theory, this composition works out incredibly well. You've got the frontline capabilities due to Aquarius on the Osiris. He's just got to press W at people for the most part, and he's good to go. Wubbin, it's kind of the same concept. It's Fafnir. He loves just locking people down for like 2.5 seconds because of his CC, and that's probably one of the most annoying things in the world, and it just has the setup for a double hunter composition with the Habwa to secure almost any kill. It's just not really coming to fruition because of how far behind this squad fell so early on.
Yes, that is why. We didn't see them get off the ground. I said, Habwa will run the game if he is allowed to leave, and he just was grounded the entire time. I'm still, and I don't want to be the guy pointing the finger. I'm not seeing that to the Chiron. The Chiron has done less damage than the Habwa in these team fights, and Habwa hasn't done anything. If this was a Neath selection because more control, would that have helped the scenario?
The risk that you run with hunters like Chiron and Neath is that they are team dependent. That's why they're not very favorable in the duo lane, because they kind of rely on their team in order to really do anything.
So what kind of pick would have, because I think that the Chiron selection was it just didn't work for a number of reasons, but I like the rest of the team here, and I think Noble is talented enough to actually pull this composition off. Is there a pick in the mid lane that you would have rather seen or would have made this more successful?
Honestly, I'm not sure that it would have really mattered what MLC is playing, because the fact is, Skeely just had a couple of missed engagements early on. He wasn't able to capitalize on those early Habwa ultimates, and unfortunately, Noble was trading out with either 1-for-1s or 1 or 2-0s, and because Luminosity was finding the favorable ends of those trades, it just ended up leading to this kind of vicious cycle of just not being able to do anything.
The problem
you get
here,
trapped.
Yeah, the problem for Noble was they seem to have one, not necessarily win condition, but one person to bring them to that win condition, which was skilled on the Habwa, and it just didn't wind up happening. He missed a couple of engagements, and unfortunately, a couple of engagements are all you need to miss to not get yourself off the ground. Basket again just blows up Wubbin way too close to the sun. Barracuda takes out Skildon as well. The right side Phoenix about to melt. The Suns come down, and Wowie's gonna go down with them. If Scary D can catch up, and he will. Number 17 as Basket takes one down, and Luminosity are gonna clean this one up. MLC the only one alive, and well, we will see Baron chase him down. Just a little bit of fun. But Titan goes down, Luminosity kills it in 24 minutes of play. 17 to Noble's 4, up 20,000 gold or just shy of it. Like I said, game